and we've got to hunker down for a hurricane. Still got to look at those rates. Still got to make sure that my outside presence is what it's supposed to be and that I'm not doing my owners any injustice. They got to have the right rates to get the right kind of rentals. I'm forever looking at different KPIs, to be honest. It depends on the day, on what I'm hunting for. Obviously, RevPAR's a big number that I want to take and make sure that it looks good. I'm looking at my year over year. How many check-ins do I have today versus how many check-ins I had this day last year? We run a weekly report on how many reservations we've made. We have a goal for ourselves for the year, and my team kind of like battles to see who can get closest. It's one of those things that everybody in the office gets involved as far as let's make this happen, and then they look to me to say, how do we do it?
Welcome to RevLabs by PriceLabs.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of RevLabs by PriceLabs. My name is Becca, one of your hosts, and today we are doing a Life of a Revenue Manager segment. I've got Jessie Moore from Lewis Realty with me today. Jessie, say hi.
Hi.
Awesome. And today we're focusing on sort of very similar to my roots in revenue management. For those of you who don't know, I actually used to be an operator here in Charleston, South Carolina. I never actually had the revenue manager title. I was the GM of one of our offices. And, you know, there are a lot of revenue managers out there that don't have that title and maybe wear a whole bunch of hats. So I met Jessie at the Women's Summit a couple weeks back here in Charleston, and listening to her story, I really just wanted to share it with everybody because I know her experiences are shared by many operators out there. Jessie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jessie Moore. I work for Lewis Realty here on Topsail Island. We're in North Carolina. I'm the property manager here, and I've been with the company for about 12 years. I'd say about 11 of those I've been in property management, revenue management, just management altogether.
Love it. And are you from Topsail or?
Not originally. I'm actually from Maryland originally, and I got cold, so I moved south. And I've been here for about 12 years, and most of that time has been spent here with this company.
Beautiful. Did you have like a background in hospitality, or how did you get into property management?
Gotcha. I actually don't have a background in hospitality. I did a lot of retail management prior, and when I moved, I found this job position, and it sounded like a great fit for me. I actually started in the front office, doing just day-to-day reservation stuff. Got my real estate license, moved on up, and now I'm here.
It's funny. Like, I used to think that like my journey was kind of unique, but the more I talk to people, it's like, oh, I just kind of fell into it. For me, I was like, oh, I'd love to work at the beach, like check out some cool houses. Like, why not? So, no, that's great. So tell us about all of the hats that you wear, because you don't just do revenue management. Obviously, that's a very important part of your job. But I was surprised. I was like, you don't have a team that manages that? Oh, also, how many listings do y'all manage?
Right now, we're at about 160 vacation rentals, and I'd say roughly about 75 long-term rentals. So we have a pretty decent portfolio for the area.
Yeah. And you're doing everything from owner communication to revenue management. What does a day in the life of Jessie look like?
Oh, it's chaos, but it's controlled chaos. It's happy chaos. It's chaos with coffee. It's my day-to-day changes from day to day. Some days I'm dealing with owners and contracts and looking over those rates and trying to figure out what the market's doing today. And other days I'm dealing with property problems and guests who need linens and guests who have problems and guests that just want to talk to me. So it really just kind of depends on the day, on what new adventure we get to have. So it's always a fun experience, that's for sure.
It keeps things interesting, right?
Everything I'm never bored.
Sometimes I miss that. I mean, I will say I'm never bored at my current position here at PriceLabs, but I do miss a little bit of that like chaos and the fires being put out. We talked a little bit about this beforehand, but how do you balance like the actual fires that are happening with guests? There's like maintenance issues and all sorts of problems that always tend to come up. with things like revenue management, that's maybe not a fire that you need to like put out, but more of like a fire that you need to consistently tend to and think about, even though all these other chaotic things are happening around you.
Absolutely. Scheduling is my biggest part of my week. I make sure that I have time every day to look into my programs, look into my reports, no matter what's going on, even if it has to be first thing in the morning or last thing in the evening. Every day I've got to look at that stuff because that's most of my job is to make sure that those numbers are looking right every day. And some days, say we've got a storm coming and we've got to hunker down for a hurricane, still got to look at those rates, still got to make sure that my outside presence is what it's supposed to be and that I'm not doing my owners any injustice. They got to have the right rates to get the right kind of rentals. So it's a constant battle, but it's something that we just do. We just make the time.
That makes a lot of sense. When you say you're looking at like certain reports, you're looking to make sure the numbers look good. Like what are maybe like the two most impactful KPIs that you're looking at, or what are some reports that you're running to help, prioritize the work that you're doing to make it more impactful?
Gotcha. I'm forever looking at different KPIs, to be honest. It depends on the day, on what I'm hunting for. Obviously, RevPAR is a big number that I want to take and make sure that it looks good. I'm looking at my year over year. How many check-ins do I have today versus how many check-ins I had this day last year? We run a weekly report on how many reservations we've made. We have a goal for ourselves for the year, and my team kind of like battles to see who can get closest. It's one of those things that everybody in the office gets involved as far as let's make this happen, and then they look to me to say, how do we do it? So that's my big challenge, is to tell them what we need to do. And those reports, like my year over year RevPAR, tells me where am I sitting, my ADR for the week, where am I sitting as far as from last year to this year? Am I too high? Am I too low? How are my check-ins looking? Right now everything's looking pretty good. Last week maybe not.
Yeah.
So,
no, I love that you're involving your team. I led a panel a couple of years back at DARM on having I forget exactly what the title was, but having your team be involved in revenue management, having like a data-backed culture almost. So the fact that you're sharing those numbers with them and involving the entire team can help you achieve that goal.
oh, yeah.
Sometimes if you have like a revenue management team that's more siloed, it's less natural to share what you're working on. So I think that's maybe a huge benefit that you have, even though it makes your life a little bit more chaotic, you really are approaching things in a more wholesome way, I would say.
Yeah. Our office isn't a very big one. We've got kind of a smaller crew here. So we tend to take care of everything together. So when I have a report that's a good report, I like to share it with them because it shows them that they're doing a good job, and it shows them that the things they're working on every day is helping to get those numbers where the company needs them to be. And then it just kind of boosts the day. So any little bit helps, that and a donut, and we're good to go.
You're making me hungry. So let's shift a little bit. North Carolina, beach market, super seasonal,
Yes.
very traditional vacation rental market. Vacation rentals were there long before Airbnb, long before Vrbo. What are some challenges that are maybe unique to your market that the other markets aren't really facing right now?
Gotcha. Much like you said, seasonality. That off season, we're very, summer season. If it's warm early, we might have a decent spring. If it's warm late, we might have a decent fall. But the majority of our business happens in that summer season. And if we're not in that right rate market, we're missing that season. And it's a very quick season. And then we have those snowbirds that come down for the winter time and things like that, but they're not as prevalent as they used to be. People aren't spending money like they used to be. So one of my biggest challenges is making sure that we get with our owners and we find that sweet spot so that we're not struggling all season, and we kind of come out the gate right in the right spot. If we can get them right off the bat, great. Then we don't have to fight all season to fill in these gaps. We can just kind of fill in the off season instead, and that's a much easier challenge.
Yeah. You bring up owners. I know in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, there are a lot of companies that have really strict owner contracts where the owners essentially say week by week what their rates are. Is that something that you have?
We have a very similar to that. What I like to do every fall, I'm actually working on it right now for our 2026 season, is look at what we did this season and then send my owners a list of suggested rates based on dates throughout the year. We have a typical, seasonal calendar. We have little names for our seasons and they're cute and they, have color codes and everything. So I send my owners what I think they should rent for, and then they send me back if they want to change anything. And then we put that into the dynamic pricing program and we see how it goes. So that's kind of how the whole season gets started.
Yeah. Are you sharing data with the owners as well? Like, I know sometimes like talking to owners, data can be a bit of like a brick wall, hard to understand, but it can also be a huge tool.
I always make sure that they know the data is available, but I don't typically just give it out to them because, like you said, it can be this thing that they just don't understand, or they get confused with other numbers, and they're like, "What does this mean?" And then it snowballs. So if they want data, I am all about handing it over to them, but I'm not just gonna freely toss it that way because it just opens a can of worms.
No. Yeah, sometimes opening the door to more questions just leads to more questions and less understanding. But it's good that it's available to them and you have it sort of in your back pocket for when you have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
This summer we saw markets that did really well. We saw markets that didn't do well. We saw markets that overall looked okay, but then when we went into certain segments, they were underperforming while others were doing just fine. What did the summer look like for you, and how did you kind of handle that?
Sure. We started out the season pretty strong with, pre-reservations for the year, and then the spring just came to a screeching halt. And we kind of saw a very low amount of bookings happening, not a lot of action going on, numbers kind of staying the same and trending downward. Then like a light switch came July and everything went right back up and everything started filling up and filling up and filling up. And we ended up the season pretty decent overall. Our first part of the season, May and June, did not see the kind of reservations that they're used to. July and August and September even has seen a boom in reservations. So it was just kind of like everybody didn't spread out. They just all came at once. Yeah, it was hard on our owners because they were very worried about how the season was going to play out. And some it didn't play out as well as they had hoped, but they did get that end of the peak. Okay, here's a little to make me feel better.
Yeah. So, coming out of the off season, like it's a bit of a sigh of relief almost.
Exactly.
In Charleston and sort of the Carolina market that I'm most familiar with, we saw that our shoulder seasons like extended significantly after COVID, where it almost, honestly, that's part of why I'm not a property manager anymore. I was like, hey, I need a break at least one time a year. So I wonder if, like, do you think, and it can be a multitude of things, do you think that this is maybe a trend in maybe consumer confidence and spending, or do you think it's more of like us kind of going back to how things used to be? You've seen this market, for 12 years now. Is it kind of going back to the norm, or is this something maybe reacting to what's going on in the economy?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think COVID kind of changed the game for everybody. Like you said, it extended seasons. I had people in December where I never had people in December. And that was a good solid 2-3 years running, and then it stopped. They didn't come anymore. They had to go back to work. They had to go back to school. They had to go back to their lives before. And then we saw a little bit wider of a shoulder season, but in the past, I'd say 2 seasons, it's going back to pre-COVID, Memorial Day, Labor Day, just a little bit on the holidays outside of that. And owners are having a hard time kind of wrapping their head around the change. We've seen it. We're used to it. We're almost like, oh, finally, it's back to what it should be. But they're just like, where'd my people go? Where'd those guests go? So it is a little bit of a challenge to kind of get them to see it from our perspective as well. Like, this isn't anything that's not normal. We're just used to something else recently. We just have to remember only 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was a different way. And we could have, April to ourselves and not worry about it, and it wasn't a big deal. Now it's kind of a big deal though. Where are my renters? I had renters the last 3 years, but they're gone. They come in July now.
Yeah. Cool. Want to shift a little bit to your journey. We kind of were there, now we're back to it. Sorry, it's my brain is all over the place.
No worries.
And those who are listening, thank you for
standard day.
But so one thing that I find interesting is, and I just did a session at the Women's Summit about kind of like growing into revenue management as a role.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to Steve Trover with Better Talent, and he says that a revenue manager is one of the hottest positions that he's been like having or helping people hire for recently. The number of positions open have like 2 or 3x in the past like year or two.
Wow.
And I feel like there is this this thought that like I need to hire somebody outside that knows what revenue management is. I need a revenue manager on staff, which in some cases, you know, especially as you grow, that is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to hear about sort of like your journey into revenue management, starting at the front desk, because that's very much how I started too.
Yeah.
And like, if you have any advice for other operators that might have somebody at their front desk that would make an incredible revenue manager in the next few years, that's maybe looking to hire somebody instead.
Gotcha. From when I started to where I am now, I have just learned every single day something new. When I was in the front, I would help the property manager. I'd look at the things, I'd put them in the file cabinet. I'd hear her talking about, I got to do rates and I got to do this, and hear her talking to owners about things. So I learned the terminology. I learned the process. And then when I got into it myself, I learned, what am I looking at? What am I looking at to get those numbers? How did she get those numbers? How am I going to get those numbers? And over the years, I mean, this back in the day, we used paper and pencil and math to do everything. Now I have a spreadsheet and it handles all the math for me. But things have evolved over the years, and I've learned that the rates have to evolve with them. And my owners and their opinions on how things need to be priced need to evolve with it, because just like I'm growing, so is this industry. So is how things are done in it. There's so many more tools at my disposal now than there were before. Before I had to scrub on HomeAway and look for a listing that might have some rates that I can maybe peek at. Now I can go to key data and pull up comps anytime I want. So it's definitely made it easier to get those kind of figures. But when you're in the front, the best thing that you can do is just kind of absorb, see what's going on around you, see what part of it you're going to play later. And if you want to stick with your company, where can you fit in? That was kind of what I did. I was like, I see opportunity here, so let me listen. And in case that opportunity comes in my lap, I want to be ready.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like speaking with you, it sounds like curiosity is like coming out of something that like is like a key feature of your personality. You're curious, you're a strong communicator. If you're listening and you're thinking about hiring a revenue manager, look for people who are probably good with spreadsheets or interested in spreadsheets, curious, looking to learn, because you can develop incredible revenue managers from within. You don't always have to hire outside. This has been awesome. I think we're coming up towards the end. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet? I'm trying to think.
I don't know.
We've kind of gone over a lot. Maybe, so thinking of the future. You mentioned that like technology has played a big role in changing how you do revenue management day to day. I'm sure operations as well. How do you see technology continuing to evolve for your role? Is there anything that you're like looking for? Hoping that comes out soon?
There's always, I'm hoping that this will work a little bit better. We use a software company that sometimes has a couple of issues every now and then, but the next day they've got a fix for it. And I'm like, okay, yes, now I don't have to break my workaround. Same with the revenue management software that we use. Sometimes I gotta have a workaround, and when they fix it, it's just so fantastic. So you kind of have to look forward to what what your software is going to be able to provide for you, and look for new software. Especially this time of year, I'm looking for new things that will help me and my team. The introduction of Breezeway changed our housekeeping department overnight. The introduction of Point Central changed our maintenance department overnight. So one simple program and our team learning how to use it changes how effective we can be for our clients. So I'm hoping that revenue management programs end up being easier to use, and AI helps me to figure out what I need without spending 17 days figuring it out. So I'm hopeful for the future that all this technology and all this wisdom that they're saying they have in this internet world comes my way.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. Sorry to like throw a curveball at you. Something that, a lot of the property managers that I'm speaking to, they're like, I have to add another software. I have to add another software. How do you evaluate like the value, whether it be a dollar add to your reservations or the effectiveness, or how it makes your staff more effective? How are you sort of evaluating that? As it's more available, a bit of a strain on your bottom line.
Yeah, my ROI is huge for me, especially because we're not a giant company. We're a smaller company. We're a family-owned company. So every dollar we spend counts. It matters. And I'm looking at things in the fall to see if I want to use them again for the spring. How effective were they? Does my team like them? Does my owners get what I need from them? Do I get what I need from it? Is it clunky? Is it outdated? Does it look bad? If I don't want to use the software anymore and it's not giving me all the aspects that I need, I'm going to find something better. I'm not going to just stick with it because it's what I've been using. There's always another option, or I'll just find a different way to do it if the software is not worth it. Right now, we're pretty happy with all of our softwares where we've found our groove. So thankfully I won't be learning anything new this season, but there have been seasons where we've switched entire software companies and the entire crew had to learn a new thing, but it was for the greater good. The new software had all the bells and the whistles that we needed to provide our owners with what they needed. And then that helped us to provide the guests with what they needed. So it kind of trickles down on domino effect. But every time I see a software, I think about how much it's going to cost me, how much I'm going to use it, and if my team can figure it out. And if all of those boxes get checked in the right way, we're getting it.
Makes sense. Makes a ton of sense. If we're thinking about, again, the future still, what would you say is maybe the next big challenge or opportunity that you're seeing for Topsail or your market?
Gotcha. Our challenge here is we have a lot of inventory. So our biggest goal, our biggest hurdle is we need better marketing. We need to get out in front of these people, these private Airbnb people that are trying to take over our space, market ourselves as that traditional property management, get people back to what it used to be here on Topsail Island. There's a lot of bigger conglomerates that have taken over some of these smaller companies, and we still have a big handful of people that don't want to work with them. They want to work with me. They want to work with the locals. They want to work with the people that are out there. So we just kind of need to battle with those bigger guys, that bigger fish, and put our marketing out there a little bit harder, make sure our rates are better and right and in the right place at the right time. And I think if my team works together and, all the marketing falls in place, 2026 is looking brighter. We have plans in place to make those dates that didn't fill in this year get filled in.
I think that makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense, especially as the markets are changing. I find it really interesting because in markets like Florida is like a traditional vacation rental market, but we've seen the supply there like double. That's like 20. Don't quote me on that number. We have resources that actually have the numbers, but Florida had this huge boom, and North Carolina, like the beaches there, again, this really traditional vacation rental market had a ton of supply before COVID, probably saw additional come in. But to kind of deal with this new landscape, is a really interesting challenge for the operators up there. And it sounds like you're, doing it through your owner communication, lining up marketing, revenue management, all that. Sounds
All
like
of it.
you're in a good spot.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope so.
Well, Jessie, I really, really appreciate your time. Are there, I
It was
ask
fun.
questions sometimes, and are there any final thoughts or recommendations that you have to either the operators or revenue managers that are listening to this?
Just take it day by day. Don't let the chaos get you. It's going to be better tomorrow. Have a cup of coffee and see what your numbers look like. Yep.
Love it. Love it. Jessie, so great. Thank you so much.
Great to see you again. We'll talk soon.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am. Find me.
So if you're listening, you want to connect with Jessie Moore on LinkedIn, that's where you would find her. I'm Becca Greenawalt now on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me. Subscribe to our podcast. We are available anywhere podcasts are. And until next time, thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.